Sir?
Hello.
Yes, sir. You're
Ma'am.
getting echo from your mic, sir, actually.
Okay, I will adjust, ma'am. Ma'am, shall we start, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, shall we start, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Dear participants, ma'am, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Dear participants, we are pleased to introduce Dr. Yegita, Associate Professor in the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering at SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Tamil Nadu. With over 12 years of experience in teaching and research, Dr. Geeta specializes in electric vehicles, automotive electric systems, and energy storage technologies, which aligns with the theme of this FDP. Geeta has published 70 journal articles in reputed journals like IEEE and IET. She has also contributed to industry consultancy, focusing on energy audits, sustainability, and quality improvement. She has developed a Udemy courses on vehicle dynamics and received funding for her project on hybrid electric vehicles from the SRM Selective Excellence Funding Agency. We are honored to have Dr. Geeta share her valuable insights and look forward to an enriching session. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Egita. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Sir, hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Yes. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me. And in today's session, we are going to discuss on how to model a battery pack or a battery cell for a vehicle. Actually, this is not going to be a normal battery cell designing. This session is particularly meant for how to choose a battery pack for an electric vehicles, right? It may be a two-wheeler, three-wheeler, or four-wheeler. How to choose a battery capacity, what should be your battery voltage, how many cells we are going to have it in a series, and how many cells we are going to have it in a parallel. Those are the designs we are going to see in this session. Okay. And before that, in order to design a battery for a vehicle, first we should know what is vehicle dynamics. Okay. First we have to consider what is the vehicle that we are going to design. I mean, if I'm going to make a battery with so and so capacity, for which vehicle I am planning to make that battery design, right? So in order to know that, first we should know what is vehicle dynamics. So at first, there are different forces acting on a vehicle. For example, if we take a traction force is the force actually required by the vehicle to move forward, right, or to drive, right? And apart from those traction force, we also have set of forces. Like, the first one is the most important one is aerodynamic drag force. So here if you see, So here if you see, we have different, I mean, as the vehicle moves forward, obviously the atmospheric air will have certain pressure over the vehicle, right? So that red arrows indicates high pressure on the vehicle, so which is always opposing the traction force, right? And the green and yellow one are the medium and the low force on the vehicle by the atmospheric air, right? So usually if you see that red color indicates the impact of air on the vehicle, which is high in the front side, right? So obviously in aerodynamic drag force, it is perpendicular or proportional to the frontal area of your vehicle. So what is aerodynamic drag force? It is a force which is also opposing the traction force generated by the interaction of atmospheric air on your vehicle, right? And here CD, first of all, the formula for your aerodynamic drag is FAD is equal to 1 by 2 rho AF CD V square. Here rho is the density of air, which is a constant. It's going to remain a constant like 1.2 kilogram per meter cube. And it is constant for whatever the vehicle is, like two-wheeler or three-wheeler or four-wheeler. Okay. And AF stands for frontal area in meter square. What is the area of your front area of your vehicle, right? And CD is the drag coefficient, how impactful your atmospheric air on your vehicle, that is given by CD, that is drag coefficient, and V represents the velocity of the vehicle in meter per second, right? So here in this case, rho is a constant, it's going to be fixed, and V is the velocity of the vehicle, which is going to be fixed by the designer, at what highest speed my vehicle need to be run. And whereas AF and CD is usually, it will be given in the specification. Suppose different models we have, right? So those specifications in that sheet, we can find what is the frontal area of your vehicle and what is the drag coefficient of the vehicle. It will be provided by the manufacturer. Okay. Now, this is about the aerodynamic drag. Now we are going to see how the vehicle velocity is going to impact on the aerodynamic drag force, right? For us, we are going to assume a case study. Okay, it is about a two-wheeler, right, whose velocity is going to be three different cases, because we are going to analyze how your velocity is impact on your aerodynamic drag force. Then we have CD to be 0.9, A is going to be 0.5. Now we know that the force, aerodynamic drag force, is equal to 1 by 2 rho A CD into V square. At first, we are going to substitute case 1, that is 60 kilometer per hour. And here this V indicates it is in meter per second, right? So in order to convert kilometer per hour into meter per second, we have to divide that by 3.6. Okay. So 60 kilometer per hour, which is equal to 60 by 3.6, that is 16.66 meter per second, right? This is your first case. And now we are going to substitute it over here. So we get FAD is equal to 1 by 2 into rho. Rho is 1.2, density of air, which is constant. And the frontal area given here is 0.5 meter square. So we have 0.5. And CD, it's given 0.9. And velocity is going to be 16.66 square. So we get the drag force to be 74.94 Newton. Fine. Now, this is for force. Suppose if we need a power, how much is the power required? Can anyone tell me how to relate a power with the force? Power is equal to force into velocity. Okay. So here we got force is equal to 74.94 Newton into its corresponding velocity is 16.66. So we get 1.248 kilowatt is the power actually that we require for so and so velocity, and due to the aerodynamic drag force alone, right? Similarly, if we consider the second case, which is of 30 km per hour. And if we do the similar procedure, okay, instead of 60, if we substitute 30, so we get 1 by 2, 1.2. The other parameters are going to be same, but the velocity is 30 divided by 3.6, the whole square. So we get 8.33. And its corresponding power is going to be 156.11. So what do you infer from this? As the velocity decreases, how about the force? And how about the power? As the velocity decreases, obviously the power is also going to be reduced, and also the force is also going to be reduced. In other ways, as we increase the velocity, as we increase the speed of the car or speed of a vehicle, accordingly the aerodynamic drag force will also increase. Okay, and if we look at the number from 30 to 60, so it is square, like we call it as parabolic increase, okay, or exponentially it is increasing, right? And similarly for the third case, if we check for 10 km per hour, case 3, since the velocity is decreased, so the force and the power will also decrease, right? So this is how the velocity is having certain impact on your aerodynamic drag force, right? Why velocity is important in aerodynamic drag force? Because it creates exponential increase or decrease as per the velocity changes, right? Then we have the next force, we call it as rolling resistance force. So as the vehicle moves or runs in a road, right, so there is a friction between a wheel and the road, right? Due to that friction, it creates a force which will oppose the traction force. What is traction force? It is the actual force required to move your vehicle, right? And this rolling resistance force is due to the frictional force between your wheel tire, right, tire and the road, right? And generally the formula for that rolling resistance force is given by mu m into g. Here mu is the coefficient, rolling resistance coefficient. Generally that mu depends on what is the type of a tire that we have, and what is the size of the tire, and also what type of road your vehicle is going to travel, right? It may be a mud road or it may be a concrete road, right? So depending upon, it may be a loose sand, right? Depending upon the road type, we have different mu RR. And mostly in data sheet, in the specification, vehicle specification itself, they would have mentioned what is the rolling resistance coefficient for the model vehicle, right? Or else there is a generic formula, mu RR is equal to 0.01 into 1 plus velocity by 160. We can even, in some researchers, they have used this formula for finding out the rolling resistance coefficient. Either we can find it in the data sheet of a model, any vehicle model, or we can even find it by using this formula, right? And here in this table, it has been represented different rolling resistance coefficient for different type of road, right? So I have told like loose sand, what will be the range of that, right? And for iron rail, what will be the range, like that. If I am going to design, at first we should know for which road it is planned, right? Accordingly we can have our own mu RR, right? And then we have m is the mass or weight of a vehicle, right? The overall weight, or else we can say gross weight of a vehicle, that is the empty vehicle plus its load, right? Here in that load, even a battery weight should also be considered, okay? And g is said to be the acceleration due to gravity. It is a constant which is equal to 9.81 meter per second square, right? This is about the rolling resistance force. Actually, this force is basically due to the friction between a tire and the road. And how about the direction? It will be always opposite to the traction force. So now we are going to see how velocity is going to impact on the rolling resistance coefficient. Okay. At the later on slides, we will be discussing why we are talking about the velocity for the design of or model of batteries. Okay. So it is very important to know that how velocity is going to affect each and every forces. Okay. So this is a case study where we are considering a three-wheeler whose mass is going to be 680. It is a gross weight. Vehicle weight is 300 and the load weight is going to be 380. So it is 680 on the whole. And now also we are going to consider two different cases, velocity like 30 km per hour and 60 km per hour, right? So we know FRR is equal to mu r m into g. So for this case, mu rr is not known. So we are going to find it using a formula. Mu rr is equal to 0.01. See, if any of you are working in electric vehicle, please make a note of these formulas so that you can try out for your own vehicle and you can make your battery design at the end of this session on your own. So mu rr is equal to 0.01 into 1 plus V divided by 160. So if we substitute V over here, we get 0.01 for the case 1. 0.01 into 1 plus if you have any doubt, you can stop me in between as well, because I could not see if any messages in the chat. So 1 plus V is velocity. First we are going to consider 30. So obviously whatever the velocity we have, while substituting it in the equations or in our model, it should be in meter per second. Okay, we should never substitute the value of velocity in kilometer per hour at all. For every formula we use only meter per second velocity. Okay, so here 30 kilometer per hour. So it is going to be 30 divided by 3.6 in meter per second divided by 160. So we get mu rr is equal to 0.01138. This is for case 1. And if we substitute it over here, so we get 0.01138 and the total gross weight is going to be 680 and G is a constant 9.81. It is constant for all vehicle. So which is equal to, we get the force as 75.38 Newton. Okay, and if we are in need of finding out what is the power for that, so we know FRR is equal into power is equal to force into velocity, right? So if you substitute that, we get 627.91 watt, right? This is for case 1. Similarly, if we try it for case 2, so we get the force. Before that, for case 2, your mu rr will be 0. Just a second. It's 0.01277, and if we substitute it over FRR, we get 85.186 and Newton, and P will be equal to, that is power is equal to 1.419 kilowatt. Here also, if you see, as your velocity is increasing, your force is also increasing, and accordingly the power is also increasing. But it is in a linear way because your force is proportional to velocity here, so it is increased in a linear way. Okay, so this is how the velocity is having some impact on the rolling resistance force. I'm sorry. So next we have the third force, that is the climbing force. Okay, every time our vehicle will not run in a flat plane like 0 degree, right? Sometimes the vehicle what we are going to design may even climb a hill, right, at some certain angle like 8 degree or 5 degree, right? If your vehicle you're going to model is going to climb a hill with so and so angle like theta, so that time there will be a force called climbing force. Okay, and even this case, a climbing force is always opposing the direction of your the force, like traction force, right? If your vehicle is moving upward, the climbing force will act downward, right? So that is given by mg into sine theta. Okay, and if theta is going to be 0 degree, if your vehicle is moving in a flat plane, right, then this climbing force will be equal to 0. And if your vehicle is having even a small degree like 0.5 degrees, even in that case, it is necessary to consider your climbing force. It will also have certain impact in the modeling. Okay. Now, here m is going to be the gross weight of a vehicle. G is the acceleration due to gravity, that is a constant 9.8, and theta is going to be the angle, and it is in radians. Okay, so you can convert your degrees into radians while substituting it, right? And the fourth one is accelerating force, right? Initially, let us assume initially the vehicle is running at 50 kilometer per hour, right? And I am going to increase that 50 into 70, right? What will be the acceleration then? We are going it. What is acceleration actually? It is a rate of change of velocity, right? So now initially it is in 50. Now it is going to be in 70. So 20. Acceleration is going to be 20. Suppose, let us assume the vehicle is running at constant speed, like it is in 50 kilometer per hour for long time, like in a highways and all, it's going to run in 50 kilometer for about 2 minutes, right? Then their acceleration is going to be 0, right? So the acceleration force is equal to mass of the vehicle into the actual acceleration of your vehicle. Suppose for a fixed velocity, you should never consider this force. I'm going to find what are the forces for a fixed velocity, like we have done in the previous cases, right? Similar to that, if we are going to analyze for a fixed velocity or a maximum velocity, we have to ignore this accelerating force. Where we are going to assume the change in velocity, in that case, we will also include this accelerating force in our design. Okay? As of now, in the today's session, we are not going to assume FA, but while we are in the future case, if you are going to include the acceleration also, then FA should be included in your total calculation, battery capacity calculation. Okay. Now, so this we have already discussed. How about the force changes with that of your velocity? As velocity increases, your drag coefficient will be exponentially increasing. Whereas, how about the climbing force? It is independent of velocity, so it remains constant. And whereas for accelerating force, it is going to increase. And for rolling resistive force, it will be increasing in a linear way. And as per this velocity versus force, we can also say for power versus velocity. Okay. Even though the climbing force is remain constant over here, when it comes to power, it will be increased, because power is equal to force into velocity, right? So it is with respect to velocity. So even though our climbing force is constant, in the graph like power versus velocity, the climbing force will also increase and it will impact your power, right? And this is for three-wheeler, e-rickshaw, similar effect. And this is for four-wheeler. Okay. Now we have discussed what are the actual forces acting on a vehicle other than the accelerating force, right? Now, what you're going to do with these forces that we have calculated, because we were talking about the capacity of a battery, right? Or a modeling of a battery. Why we are calculating a force, right? So first we are finding out what are the total forces acting on the vehicle, right? So the total force is given by the addition of all the four forces: aerodynamic drag force plus rolling resistive force, climbing force, and then accelerating force, right? Then from the force, we are supposed to find what is the total power that we require. Okay, so we know power is equal to force into velocity. If we know force, even we can find the torque, okay, by using a power divided by r, that is the radius of the wheel. If we use that, even we can find what is the torque required. This is for designing or modeling your motor capacity. We can even find the torque actually required for your vehicle, right? Then after the traction power, we have battery power, right? So battery power is total power divided by efficiency of the drivetrain. Here the drivetrain indicates a battery efficiency. Then what is drivetrain? What are the components that we have in a drivetrain in general? Battery. Then we have a power electronic converters, right? And then we also have a motor. Okay. So the efficiency of all these three is said to be the efficiency of drivetrain. Generally, the efficiency we used to consider between 0.8 to 0.9 or 0.95. Okay. So it is up to us how much efficient your battery is. In the literatures, if we have seen, they would have considered from 0.8 to 0.95. Okay. So this is how we find the power of a battery that we need, right? But we actually need energy also, right? So for finding out the energy, we have a formula. E total is equal to, this is not a battery, this is the actual energy of a vehicle, which is equal to total power into range. How much range we are designing, like 100 kilometer per charge. For single charge, how much range that your vehicle are going to travel, like 100 kilometer or 120 kilometer, that you have to decide, right? So r is the range and v is going to be the velocity, right? So by using this, we can find what is the total energy that we require, right? Now, how much is the energy that a battery we should have, right? That is equal to the total energy divided by the efficiency of your drivetrain. Okay, so usually it is of 90% for motor, 95 for transmission efficiency, and battery efficiency is 95. Okay, this is from the literature. It's up to you. You can decide. And apart from that, after finding out the actual battery energy, we are supposed to have some safety margins, because we should not design for the exact value of power or energy that we require, right? We should have some margins, like we will be adding certain 10% or 20% with the actual capacity for safety reasons, right? So usually we will consider 20% as the safety margin while designing a battery. Okay, so with the actual battery, what we have done, we should add a 20% with that, so that we get a final battery capacity. So E battery into 1.2, 100 plus 20%. Okay, we get the final battery capacity, right? So throughout this calculation, what do we infer? We find all the forces, power and energy, everything depends on the velocity, right? So next we are going to see driving cycle. So while designing a battery, the first and the foremost one is to have knowledge on vehicle dynamics, and the second important thing is we should have a knowledge on driving pattern. Okay, because I should know my vehicle can run up to what speed or what velocity, right? For that maximum velocity only, we are going to design a battery, because a battery should also discharge or also support for the maximum power that is required, right? So the next important concept that we are going to see today is driving cycle. Okay, driving cycle is a series of data points representing the speed of a vehicle versus time. For each second, for every second, what is its velocity, right? That represents the driving cycle. There are enormous variety of driving cycles available in online. For each and every countries, they have their own driving cycle. Even in India, we have our own driving cycle, Indian driving cycle, and even now we have modified Indian driving cycle also. So all the data, like every second, what is the velocity of that vehicle? for a standard ones, right? So I have listed certain standard driving cycles which are available, okay, and you can just search in online so that you can get that Excel. For example, NEDC, New European Driving Cycle. So these standard driving cycles are released by the governments, right? Since um, since it is released by the government, you can use it as such for your own design, or I will tell you what is the other way of having your driving pattern. Okay. So now, for example, this NEDC, New European Driving Cycle, the total distance covered is 11,017 meter, and this is the duration of the driving cycle, and this is the average speed. Similarly, we have Japanese driving cycle, then worldwide motorcycle driving cycle, right? So I have shown you with few driving cycles, standard driving cycles. Okay, this is extra urban driving cycle. We have generally in driving we have 4 different modes: accelerating mode, braking mode, then cruise mode where it runs at constant speed, and idle mode. In idle mode, the motor is on, but the velocity is going to be 0. That we call it as idle mode. So any driving cycle will have 4 different modes, right? So this is one such standard driving cycle. And we have ECE15. It is also a standard driving cycle. You can search for those Excel, like series of time versus velocity, or else I will also share those Excel with coordinators. You can get from them for your analysis. And then we also have Indian driving cycle and modified Indian driving cycle as well. Then suppose I'm going to design a vehicle for my own institute. Let me assume I'm going to design an autonomous vehicle which is solely designed for running in my own institute, right? Then I can't use the driving cycle which is provided by the government, like standard driving cycle, right? In such cases, we should have our own driving pattern, right? For that, we have steps. First one is you have to choose the route for which you're going to generate a driving pattern. Then you have to collect the data. What kind of data we need? That is velocity of a vehicle, right? With respect to time. Those data you have to collect it by using sensors. And then we have to generate our own driving pattern. Okay, I will show you one case study how to generate a driving pattern on your own. So here we have chosen a 600 seconds, 6.9 kilometer distance. Okay. Okay. First, we have to choose from which place, which is your starting point and which is your ending point. What is the total distance that we are going to cover, and how much is the approximate time that will take for our vehicle to travel, right? Then, after choosing your location, then you have to fix a sensor so as to measure the speed of your wheels. Okay, then it should be recorded in the computer, and after that, and it should not be done in a single day. We should do it for a month, at least for a month. Okay, because every day we have different pattern, right? Velocity pattern. So we have to record it for about 1 month at least. Then we can make our own driving pattern. Okay, and this methodology you can use if you're going to design a vehicle for any particular application. Okay, in that case, instead of using a standard driving cycle, you can generate your own driving cycle and you can utilize it for your models. Okay, so next we are coming to battery histories. We know there are primary batteries, secondary batteries. Secondary is going to be the rechargeable one that will be used in electric vehicles, and we also have different types of batteries that you might have seen in yesterday's session too. Then series and parallel, how to connect the batteries in series and parallel. And before moving on to that, what happens if I connect as cells in series, and what happens to the voltage and current if I connect the cells in parallel? Suppose, let us assume two resistors connected in series. Okay, how about the voltage and how about the current? in this case, when they are connected in series, obviously your voltage will get added. Okay, there will be an increase in voltage. What about the current? The current flowing through the first resistor will remain same as the second resistor. So when I connect cells in series, that will make your voltage more. Okay, that will make the voltage to be more, whereas the current is going to remain same, right? Suppose if I am having cells in parallel, what about the voltage? The voltage remains same. Even if I add the number of parallel cells, voltage is going to remain same, whereas the current added, it will increase the current. Okay, we have different batteries. So every battery will have its own nominal voltage and nominal capacity. Okay, capacity in terms ampere hour. Okay. So you have to choose which battery you're going to use according. Yes, sir. Shall I proceed? So now we have another case study in which we are going to design a battery for this vehicle. Okay. So it's starting from first step till last step. How many number of cells and how many number of, cells in series and parallel that we need, that we are going to design for this particular vehicle. Okay. So participants, can you please mute if you are not having any doubt, please? Yes. So what are the steps we have? Yes, please. Participants, please mute yourself. So first, okay. So first, this is for a two-wheeler. Okay. Now we are going to design a battery for the specifications what I have given. Bindu ma'am, can you mute yourself? Bindu ma'am. Okay. Now, so we are going to design a battery for a two-wheeler. Okay. Then the specifications I have given. So at first we have to find what is the drag force. Okay. Since the velocity given here is constant, we are not going to consider FA, accelerating force. Okay. So drag force is equal to 1/2 rho CD area into V square, velocity square. So if we substitute the values over there, okay, we know what is rho. Participants, can you mute yourself, please? So we have 1 by 2 and rho is going to be, it's a constant. Okay, what is rho? Density of air, which is 1.2, and CD, it is given in the data, it is 0.9, and A is going to be 0.6, and velocity is going to be 30 kilometers. So we have to convert that into meter per second. So 30 divided by 6, 3.6, the whole square. So we get the drag coefficient is 22.50. Similarly, next we need to find what is the rolling coefficient, rolling resistive force. Okay, so the formula for that is mu RR into G it's given like 0.015, and G is going to be 9.81, and the gross weight is going to be 200. And if we do so, we get FRR as 29.43 Newton. And the third one is climbing force. Will there be any climbing force? Will there be any climbing force for this design, for this particular case study? Climbing force, any idea? It is mg sine theta. What is theta? Zero. So now we have got all the forces acting on the vehicle. So what is the total force? Adding all your forces, we get the total force, that is 22.50 plus 29.43, which is equal to 51.93 Newton. This is the actual force that we require. Okay, then we are going to find the power. Then fifth one is power. Power is equal to force into velocity. So we get, if we multiply the force with the velocity 30 by 3.6, we get the power to be 432.57 watt. Okay, we are designing for a two-wheeler. Okay, so the power required is 432.57 watt, okay, which is approximately, we can assume 500 watt if we go for real-time application. Then now we have done with power. Next, we are going to talk about the energy. Okay, so the set of formulas I have listed already in the previous slides, right? So how about energy? Energy is equal to power into range divided by velocity. So let us assume the range is going to be 100 kilometers. So for one charge, the two-wheeler can able to run for 100 kilometers. Okay, that is our assumption. So which is equal to power, we have found in the previous step, 432.57, and range we have assumed it as 100 kilometers. So 100 into 10 power 3, and velocity is going to be 30 divided by 3.6. So we get 5.186 megajoule. Okay, so the actual energy for that given velocity, we have 5.186 megajoule, right? This is the total energy, right? We have, it is in terms of joules. Now we are going to convert that into kilowatt hour. Okay, because we need our capacity for our battery to be in kilowatt hour, right? So there is a state that 1 kilowatt hour is equal to 3.6 megajoule, right? So now we can convert this 5.186 megajoule into kilowatt hour. Okay, so the actual total energy is equal to 5.186 divided by 3.6. So we get 1.44 kilowatt hour. So this is the energy for this. This is the actual total energy of a vehicle. Now we are going to find what is the total energy that the battery should have. Okay, so E bat is equal to total energy divided by the efficiency of a drivetrain. So now we are going to assume the efficiency to be 85, okay, 85%, 0.85. So E total is 1.44 divided by 0.85. We get 1.694 kilowatt hour. This is for the battery energy, right? And then now we have to add a 20% of for the safety margin with this. So the actual final battery energy is, we need to add 20% with this. So 1.694 into 1.2. So we get 2.032 kilowatt hour. This is the battery energy. Now we are going to find how many number of cells in series and parallel. Okay. So at first, since it is a two-wheeler, we are going to deal with two-wheeler design. So usually the battery voltage will be of 48 to 72 volts. Okay. And if it is for four-wheeler, we may have 200 to 800 volt. Okay. Since it is a two-wheeler, we are going to assume V is equal to 48 volt. So voltage you have to assume, okay, it's going to be 48 volt. Now we are going to find the capacity in terms of ampere hour, right? So we know E is equal to V into capacity, battery capacity. So E, it's known, it's 2.032 into 10 power 3, which is equal to V. We have assumed it as 48 volt. And capacity in ampere hour, it's unknown. So we can find what will be the ampere hour. That is 42.33 ampere hour. This is the capacity of your battery that we need to design. Okay, 42.33. Just you have to divide your E with V. Okay. Now, before moving on to how many number of series and parallel, okay, so we should know what type of battery that I am going to choose. Whether I am going to choose a lead acid battery, or I am going to choose a nickel cadmium or lithium ion, right? In recent days, all your vehicles are using lithium ion. So we are also moving on with the lithium ion for our design. So a basic lithium ion battery will have a nominal voltage. What will be the nominal voltage for lithium ion? It will be 3.7 volt. Okay. And then the nominal current or ampere hour, okay, the nominal capacity will be in range of 2.5 to 3.5. I am going to assume 2.5 ampere hour. Okay. This is a standard lithium ion battery nominal voltage and its capacity. Okay. Since I am going to use a lithium ion battery for my design or for my vehicle, we have chosen the lithium ion nominal voltage and its capacity. If you are going to choose any other battery, find its data sheet and identify what is its nominal voltage and the capacity. Okay. Accordingly, we can find how many numbers in series and parallel. Right. Now we have chosen this standard lithium ion with a nominal voltage of 3.7 and 2.5. Fine. Now, how to find the series? Number of cells in series. So I told, if we have a number of series cells, it will be leading to high voltage. It will have a change in the voltage, right? We have chosen the voltage to be 48. So 48 divided by 3.7. Because the nominal voltage is 3.7. So 48 by 3.7 will give to 12.97. So we are rounding it. That is 13 cells. So which indicates for this particular two-wheeler model, we need 13 cells in series. 13 lithium ion cells in series. Okay. Now coming to parallel. How many number of cells in parallel? So we have the capacity to be 42.33 for 1C. Okay, 1C indicates 42.33 ampere for 1 hour. Okay, charging rate, C rate. Okay, So 42.33 divided by the nominal capacity is 2.5. So if we divide 42.33 by 2.5, we get 16.9. So approximately 17 cells. So for the case study, what we have considered, we should have a lithium ion with 13 cells in series and 17 cells in parallel, so as to offer 42.33 ampere hour capacity with a voltage range of 48 volt. So this is how we need to design a battery for our own vehicle model, what we have considered. Is that clear? Any doubt?
No, madam.
Any doubt from the participants?
No, madam.
Okay, sir. So next we have a second case study. I hope this case study you can try it out, and if possible I will ask the
Hello.
yes sir.
Ma'am, where we'll get all these formulas and calculations? Which textbook shall I prefer?
Textbook I will share to the coordinator, sir, and also I have published one course, sir. You can follow that for vehicle modeling.
What
with
course, ma'am?
vehicle. I will show you the link at the end, sir. I will
Okay.
share to the coordinator also. You
Sure,
can
sure.
register to that.
Okay.
And apart from that, e-books also I will share to the coordinators, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Or you can share it in the WhatsApp group itself, ma'am, if you're.
Yes, sir. I do it, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, sir. So only we use hardly 12 to 15 formulas for our calculations. Sir, this 12 to 15 formula is more than sufficient for any vehicle modeling.
Ma'am, this is for two-wheeler. What about four-wheeler? Same
Yes, sir.
formulas
That
can
is
apply?
what the next case is, sir.
Oh,
In the next case, the formula remains same, sir, but the capacity what we are going to deal with will be more, because the force required is going to be more here.
Okay.
And mass of the vehicle is more, frontal area will be more, accordingly the aerodynamic drag force will also be more, so obviously the power and the energy requirement will also be more.
Formulas are same, ma'am?
Formulas remain same, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
And even if it is a truck or a bus, you can use these similar formulas, same formulas, and then you can design your own battery in the similar way. Find its energy, then fix what its voltage level, then accordingly find its capacity, then fix which type of battery you're going to use, find its data sheet from the manufacturer, identify what is its nominal voltage and the capacity. Accordingly, we can fix how many number in series and how many numbers in parallel.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, sir. So next we have another case study that is for a four-wheeler. Okay. So the same formulas, whatever we have dealt with, the same we are going to use here also. Okay. So I will just give you the answers for that, so you can solve on your own and you can try it out. So for drag force, we will be having 583. So let me come to the final part, because actually our session is about the battery capacity, modeling, right? So I will just move forward with the energy calculations. Then for this given specification, see, this is one type of vehicle model, right? Suppose if you're doing a research in electric vehicle, so what you can do is you choose any one model which is currently in market. Okay? So that particular model specification, you get it from these data sheets. Okay, it will be available in online. Any specific model car, you choose it, find its data sheet. You can find all the data, whatever I have given here will be there in the data sheet of that particular model. Then you can use it for your own research for fixing out the capacities. Okay, then you can do your further research in the converter side, or any optimization techniques you can use, because at first why we have chosen the so and so capacity is required for your justification, for your research justification. So my advice is for the participant is you can choose any of the model that is already available in the market, get the data sheets, okay, and then you can find its mass, its frontal area, coefficients, everything you can find from the data sheet. For that, you design your own battery capacities. You can have that as a base and do further research along with that. So it will be helpful. Okay. So rolling resistive force is equal to 153.036 Newton. Then here also it's given 0 degree, so climbing force will be 0. Then we can find what is its total force. Accordingly, we can find what is its power. Power is equal to total force into velocity. We get 24.539 kilowatt. Then we can find its total energy. Power into range. Range is also, it's your case study. So you can fix 100 or 150 per charge or 200 kilometer per charge. If we increase the range of a vehicle, accordingly the capacity of the battery will also increase, which may lead to more weight. Okay. If your vehicle is having more weight, accordingly we will also need to provide more traction force. Okay. So in that case, it should be an optimized one. So just like that, we can't increase it. Okay. So it is, you have to choose an optimized battery such that it could not lead much weight to your vehicle as well. Okay. So E total is equal to 73.624 megajoule. Then we can convert that into kilowatt hour, which is equal to 20.45 kilowatt hour. Now we can find what is its E battery. 24.058, taking the drive efficiency to be 85. Then keeping 20% of safety level. So we get the final as 28.8 kilowatt hour. So this is the final battery capacity that we are going to design, right? Since it is a four-wheeler, right? You can see from the mass, it is 1200 kilograms. So it indicates four-wheeler. What will be the range of voltage that we can have for a four-wheeler? For two-wheeler, it should be 48 to 72 volt. You can fix it. Whereas for four-wheeler, you can have 200 volt to 800 volt. Okay. So for this case study, I'm going to assume the voltage to be 400 volt. Okay. So if it is 400 volt, so the further calculation, so the capacity will be equal to E divided by V. So we get 28.8 into 10 power 3 divided by 400. We get 72 ampere hour. Right? Now the same lithium ion with 3.7 volt as nominal voltage and 2.5 ampere hour as its nominal capacity. So we get series. How many cells in series? Now we have chosen 400 volt. So 400 divided by 3.7 volt. So we get 108 cells in series. Similarly, how many parallel cells that we need? The ampere hour is going to be 72 divided by 2.5. So we get 29 cells in parallel. So this is how we design for four-wheeler. Similarly, you can design the battery pack for different vehicles. So next, those who are doing research, I just want you to share in which area you can focus when when we talk about the energy storage system. Okay. Generally, in recent research, they are not dealing with only main source like battery. Instead, they are having another source as auxiliary one, so as to cope up with the higher or peak powers. Right. Generally, battery, it is meant for high energy density, so it can support only for the average power demands. Okay, we can charge the battery in a slower way or we can discharge it in a slower way, but if we do it in a sudden, instantaneously, the battery degradation may occur. It may leads to decrease in the lifetime. Okay, so in order to avoid that, generally the battery will be used for the average power demands. Okay, when the vehicle is running at a constant speed, we can use battery as the main source. And when the vehicle is increasing its speed suddenly, suppose if it is traveling in a traffic condition, if there is a sudden increase in speed, or if there is a sudden braking application, in that case we are not going to use a battery as a source. Instead, we can either use another battery with high power density, or we can use super capacitors or ultra capacitors. Okay, so generally these capacitors will have high power density, which can support for instantaneous charging and discharging. Okay, so recent researchers are working on this hybrid energy storage system, where they use two energy storage system. One is battery, which is going to act as a main source for average demands, and another one is the capacitor, super capacitor or ultra capacitor, which is going to work during sudden increase in speed or braking. Okay, and we have different topologies. This is without any converter. This we call it as passive topology. And we have connected a DC-DC converter for capacitor alone, or else we can even have a battery capacitor DC-DC converter, which can control the battery power, or else the final one is multi-converter configuration. This is the recent one. So we can have two different DC-DC converter, where each of your energy storage system can be controlled based on the algorithms. Different control strategies are available. So based on that, we can control when battery need to be supplied and when ultra capacitor need to supply. If you are yet to start your research, you can work on this area if you wish, and you can contact me if you need any help in the design of your components for your vehicle, or in battery as well, or in any other area related to electric vehicle. So with this, I would like to conclude my session. If you have any queries, you can ask. And this is the Udemy online course that I have published on vehicle dynamics. If you wish, you can even have a look on this course. It may be helpful for you. And any queries, if you have, even you can mail to my mail ID, so I can respond to it. And if any queries you have, you can ask me now.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other queries, if you have, you can ask me. Yes, PPT, I will share the PPT as well. I will share you with the material, like the few of the case studies we have dealt with. So those solution also I will share with the coordinators. You can refer that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And regarding battery module, you can choose, sir, as per the weight, which is optimized one. You can choose the module as well instead of pack. You can have different number of packs. Temperature, you can, there are certain other categories like temperature and weight. You can optimize your battery pack so as to have it as a module as well. If you have chosen a wrong module, suppose if you're designing a vehicle for a range of 100 kilometers, we could not able to achieve it. And also, if there is a sudden increase or a peak power, okay, so your battery could not able to support it, okay sir. And also, if it leads to make such high current discharge, accordingly there will be an internal fault, temperature rise will be there, and internal fault of a battery occurs, sir. So we should, if we choose the module in a wrong way, like with a lesser capacity, if you have designed it with higher capacity, there won't be a problem. But if it is with lesser capacity, it may be a problem for the battery. It may get damaged. Thank you. Yes, sir. Coordinator, sir, I'm done with my presentation.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, tell me, ma'am.
You're not clear, sir, actually.
Ma'am, is it finished, ma'am?
Yes, sir, done, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.